I was born in Los Angeles on October 3rd, 1932. My mother was an honest woman, and she's a nice-looking woman. She was a good cook. She was a painter. My parents taught me to be honest, work in charities, help people. My mother was collecting money for Ort. She would have, they called it pushkish, and that's how I really got involved in Ort, which I eventually built an Ort building in Los Angeles. My father, I remember in the wartime when Israel was having all the problems, he and his friends, they shipped over guns through Mexico and Miami. They would have them delivered to Israel. So he was very supportive of Israel. When I was a kid, I would go to Hebrew school. I had wonderful times of being bar mitzvah. It was great. In fact, when we had the bar mitzvah, the woman had to sit on one side, the men on the other. I remember about 1942 or 43, our government took the Japanese and put them in these camps. And a lot of homes in our area had no gardeners. So I set up friends of mine, and we did gardening. And that was one of my first ventures. I went in the United States Navy at Los Alamitos Naval Air Station in Long Beach. It was the Korean War, and they were drafting. As I was in the textile business, I knew about clothing. They put me in uniforms. And then someone asked me, would you be interested in going out and buying things for, they called open purchase. So they give me a list where to go, and they give me the cash. I did that for about a couple of years. Well, it was a Thursday. It was a hot day, a summer day, and a friend of mine called me. He took me down to Santa Monica. And he was walking, and he saw Joyce was with a friend. She was studying her books, and I met Joyce.
I thought he was very intelligent.
We dated for a while. We planned to get married, and we were going to her parents' house to talk about the wedding. But that afternoon, I was downtown at a Union Bank in the parking lot.
His elbow was out the window. A woman opened her door and whacked his elbow.
So they had to take me to the emergency hospital. They gave me some medication shots.
I guess he knew he was going to elope, so he prepared for it. He went firstly to the hospital.
And then after I went home and I told Joyce, and then she came and got me to the house.
We eloped by going to Vegas.
So I think I was under something, so okay. So we went to Las Vegas and then we got married.
With Stanley, the family always came first.
One of my favorite memories was when my dad would take Jack and Janice and myself. We would go over to Vista Del Mar, and he had these double-decker buses, and we would see all the kids pile on. They were excited, and then we'd all go to the circus. I still remember the smile on the kids' faces.
One of my most favorite times with them was when we went to Africa on the safari. And that was one of the best memories I've ever had, and I cherish it even to this day.
I loved being with my dad. I remember on Sundays, he was always looking through the LA Times, and he would pick out little pieces of newspaper, and we'd look at properties in Inglewood and the marina, and he would drive around, and he always found the best deals.
I love the way my father gets together with the grandchildren and my daughter Brittany, and I know they love him very much.
And we have family events, dinners, we go out, holidays we spend. I mean, we're close.
He is the leader of the pack. My husband Doug and I have been married 9 years, and we look at my parents' 57 years. It's wonderful.
My husband Stanley is the most loving, caring, and giving person I've ever known in my whole life.
When we first got married, we would go for weekends in Palm Springs, Arrowhead Mountains. Every summer now, we take a boat trip throughout Europe. We like to go to Acapulco. We like to just spend time.
One thing I think a lot of people don't know about my parents is where do they get all those tchotchkes in their house, in the office?
Joyce and I have a hobby. We go to flea markets.
He loves bargaining and getting the best deal.
My father is who he is today is because of my mother. She's the strength, the humor, and she always had his back. They're a team.
I've been friends with Stanley since 1953. Stanley and I created 2 big office towers in Marina del Rey. I think that Stanley has a mind that he sees a broad picture quick.
The beautiful thing about Stanley is that I would call him brilliant, and I think he would tell me that he was in the right place at the right time.
My father had a family business. He was in the textile business. It was called Black & Sons.
They made textiles a lot for the entertainment industry.
I was working and raising that business. I'd go after school, weekends. When my father got sick, I was about 20, 21 years old. When he passed away, my uncles decided they had a buy and sell agreement, and they brought my mother's interests out.
And that's how he ended up starting in the real estate business. So they actually did him a favor.
My dad went over to Buckeye and worked with George Conheim, and he mentored him and showed him the real estate business.
My father and George Conheim had some properties on La Cienega, so we built an office building there, and we called it the Jack Black Building. One day I get a phone call from Arthur Kaplan. It was about 1957, 58, and we worked together for 30 years or so, and we built about 50 office buildings throughout Los Angeles.
KB Management, 6922 Hollywood Boulevard was a big part of our lives.
We would go work at my dad's office, and we would file, and we would answer the phones.
And I would sit on the typewriter, and Arthur Kaplan made sure that I would only type on one piece of paper. I was playing on the typewriter. He was very economical.
I remember when I was young going to the office, and I saw what my father does, and I thought when I get older I want to be just like him.
And we sold out a Trisect, was her name.
My father will probably never retire. He has an extremely strong work ethic.
Well, Black Equity, it's my own company now.
Stan and I decided we had a pretty good fit together. And we've done business together and been friends for probably close to 40 years now.
We buy income properties, and we diversified into industrial commercial properties.
Stanley likes the office to be buzzing. He likes it busy. He'll even say, it's a good day, there's a lot of action.
My grandfather's taught me a lot of values, and most of it's Jewish-based. It was an honor to go be able to work in his office with him. Most importantly, he's taught me about how to work with people and how to treat people.
I think my dad loves having Zachary here and Jack and myself, and hopefully one day my sister's kids, or maybe my brother's daughter, or maybe my daughter.
You drive through Hollywood and I'm honored. Even the Marina Del Rey, he has the twin buildings he built in the 70s. And that's what my father did, and that's still there today, and it'll be here 100 years later, hopefully.
I think Stanley Black's greatest accomplishments are his charitable giving, whether it's Children's Hospital, whether it's Vista Del Mar, whether it's the Jewish Federation. He's a leader.
I always realized my parents were charitable, but when I found out they were extremely charitable was when they started getting their names on buildings and walls of hospitals.
Every Sunday we go to a Jewish delicatessen.
And anyone's invited.
It involved a lot of charities. Every politician and everyone from Israel stopping to visit Stanley and the crowd, become very famous.
Giving back is something that my parents have taught us, and all of my children and my husband and I continue this legacy of my parents.
It goes from generation to generation in this family.
My grandparents are very involved in Israeli charities, and so am I.
I'm most proud of my father for what he has done for other people in his life.
In his office, Stanley has a bunch of tzedakah boxes. And he said, you know, these tzedakah boxes are quite full. Why don't you bring in Sam and Michael, my children, and have them empty them out, and we'll decide which charity to give them to. So it's been a wonderful project for my children to get involved as well.
Stanley is a very generous man. Not only does he give to charities, but you come to his office, you know you're going to walk away with some things as well.
Whenever you go see Stanley, you'll walk away with his thoughts to live by, and I think Stanley really does live by those thoughts.
Stanley very much feels that it's his duty in life to help the less fortunate.
Stanley and I always have believed the same thing. What you get out of life, you must put back. and we try to do it.